Okay, welcome to AI versus my novel. I'm Abe H. Schwartz, and this is officially episode 4. Though, really, in the first week, I guess I jumped on here about 5 times already just to iron out some of the kinks with making this happen. And today, I'm going to be getting into just what has been figured out so far and some new ways of moving forward. And then I think we're really going to be getting flowing in terms of actually getting in there and editing this novel down from 916 pages into ideally about half of that, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, but that's a clean goal for cutting this down. So let's start with something here, getting into just where we're at with the prompts, which language models we're going to be using for which tasks, and I think ultimately this is going to make things a lot more simple moving forward. Okay, so I've got everything in this document right now. The first few pages are really everything that is needed for this whole process. And I'm going to run through this quickly, and then I want to show you something that's totally going to change the way in which I'm going to write over the course of this live stream. So just to recap a little bit, I wrote this 916 page draft of a novel. It's loosely based on when I broke both of my arms on a hiking date in the summer of 2019. I started writing short stories during the pandemic, had some published, and then thought I would explore this idea, make it fictional, but borrow from reality. And it ended up expanding from a short story to a novella to a bloated draft of a novel. And I think there's a lot of good stuff in there, but also it could use an AI genius brain to cut it in half. And that's what we're doing. So I started working with ChatGPT to create prompts to get this to the best possible place, and I realized they got a little too long-winded, much like my novel. They got a little bit too convoluted, and now things have been stripped down substantially. And it's not nothing, but it is going to be much more to the point in terms of let's focus on the reduction. So Claude Opus 4 is the main language model that I'm going to be using for that initial task of reducing everything down. It is able to hold more information than its sister version, which is Claude Sonnet 4, which is also great. But just keep this in mind. Claude Opus 4 will be better for working with lots of text at once and finding patterns and getting into the analysis of how to best work with large passages. Sonnet, better for line edits, taking a page or two and really dialing in on how to improve all of that. So I think that's the simplest way to break down how to best use Claude here. And I'm only really going to be using ChatGPT when we want to jump over and get a second opinion, use it more like a consultant in terms of how to best work through this entire process. So that's really it. But let's get into this really quick. So this is the prompt that we're going to be using for Claude Opus, and I'm calling it Still Trippin', which is the new working title of the book, even though you might see Don't Trip from here to there, from here and there. I can't speak right now. From time to time, you might see that title, since that was the working title as I was going. But Still Trippin' feels more active, and a big part of this book is changing it from past tense to present tense, and I'm feeling good about this title. So the genius level 50% reduction prompt, this will be in Claude for Opus. So you're a master editor helping sculpt a 916-page novel into its most compelling, approximate 400-page form with audiobook-friendly flow. Work in 40 to 50-page sections, delivering a 50-page reduction. Now, this is asking for it to just hack out about half of what I give it. And the genius task is to convert it to first person present tense, except for flashbacks and past events. Identify the emotional spine, keep scenes that advance relationships or reveal character, cut aggressively, remove philosophy, repetition, tangents, even if they're well written. And I have a lot of that. I have a lot of stuff where I just kind of go off and ramble and go over here and go over here. And especially when this is or was in past tense, it just was much more conducive to me doing that. So now that it's going to be flipped into present tense, I think there's a lot of room to strip so much of that out and just really keep it into keep it in the moment. Unless there's a point where it's essential to flashback, then it needs to be anchored in the present. Boom, go back, then get back into the present. So a lot of this is going to be finessed with me getting in there line by line. But what we're going to be doing is taking 45 to 50 page chunks. It seems like that is the most that Claude 4 Opus, the highest end version of Claude, can handle. And that's not just for getting in and assessing what it can do. That you can actually give it up to about 200 pages just to get a breakdown. Like if you wanted to throw a screenplay, 120 page screenplay in here and just ask for coverage and get notes on that screenplay, it can absolutely do that. But in terms of the actual cutting down of a lengthy amount of text, Claude 4 Opus said about 45 to 50 pages is the max that it can do with that. So let's run with that, see how it works out, and then we're going to get into the more line by line edits of it all. So asking it to preserve specificity, like keep vivid details, character quirks, and the LA atmosphere. It's set in LA. Maintain the story logic, ensure cuts don't break the narrative flow. Preservation priorities, full character introductions when they first appear, family, love interest, friends. Relationship beginnings, like Bae, who's one of the girlfriends in it, even if they need compression. Peak vulnerability moments, having the character break down with family dog, Walter, and family support. And Dustin, the main character, his sharpest observations, not repetitive internal spirals. And then specific details over general descriptions, like the dog's old man bark, girlfriend's food vlogs. But then here we're going to be cutting without mercy. So yeah, philosophy, advice sections, food, life, dating, repetitive internal monologues, especially like sexual frustration, multiple versions of the same interaction. You've got to pick the best one. Extended backstory, flashbacks, unrelated to current action. General descriptions that could apply to anyone. And then the compression technique. Combine similar scenes into one stronger scene. Keep opening and closing beats. Compress the middle. One vivid example instead of 3. Trust readers to infer emotional states. When in doubt, preserve what's funny or effed up over what's purely functional. And distinguish between story present tense, and flashbacks memories, which are in the past tense. Then the genius touch here is to know when a subplot serves a larger story and preserve the comedy that reveals character. And then the present tense flow, like I walk, I see, I think, not walk, solve thought, and make every page earn its place. So this is how it's going to play out. It's like we go from the assessment to the approval and then deliver a 50% reduced version and end each. I'm going to be doing this. So I'm going to end each delivery with a brief note, like we left off with Dustin at the art museum with his parents, whatever it's going to be, to maintain continuity. So that's we'll be showing that later. I want to get more into the actual output that it spit out just before this, and it's pretty amazing. So yeah, showing this real quick. Claude Opus is going to be doing the heavy lifting, 45 to 50 page chunk, having it cut it in half, and then I'm going to save that output. And then live, we're going to be getting into the refinement, reading through what Opus has done, and smooth out any character details that got cut, any awkward transitions, fix any tense issues, and react to what's working, not working. And then, we're going to be jumping into Claude Sonnet, which is better for these individual line edits. So this is a much more streamlined prompt for that. And just keep in mind, these prompts are a lot shorter than what I had before. So this prompting technique is a little bit like the actual novel in a microcosm of me writing something way too long and then figuring out a way to reduce it in order to make it even better. But I'd rather overwrite than overthink, even though I do tend to overthink as well. But yeah, write something too long, figure out what's working, what's not, cut it down, and keep it moving. So in these line by line edits, now I'm going to be very specific in terms of what we want to do. So say the AI uses the word feel or feels over and over again, which it did in the previous episode. And I went in and came up with different versions of those sentences so we're not so repetitive. And initially, Sonnet just wanted to almost act like a thesaurus and just boom, just swap out different words, but it had to be finessed a little bit more than that. So giving it a bit of a prompt, even if we're going to be going into specific line by line edits and know exactly what we want, just to get a little bit more focused, this is what we're going to give into Sonnet when we get into the line edits. So maintain first person present tense except for flashbacks, Dustin's raw authentic voice, sentence structure and pacing, all story content, very repetitive words, phrases, smooth out awkward transitions, fix any remaining tense inconsistencies, and adjust specific word choices. And to make only the requested changes. So don't add, cut, or restructure. I might be adding those instructions when I'm going, but at the very top of the thread, we're just giving it the basics in terms of what we want it to do. So the complete toolkit here. You really could have just started at this episode. So Opus, the major surgery, 50% reduction, tense conversion, and then Sonnet is fine tuning, word variety, transitions. Again, those are both Claude. Those are the latest versions of Claude. And then ChatGPT, we're going to have that be a strategic consultant when we need a second opinion. We can talk to it live and get into it. And then me providing the final polish and any creative decisions. And I think this is really going to do it. It's going to be solid. And now getting in down here, this is the 24 pages that Claude, or no, 23 pages, I believe, 23, 24 pages that Claude spit out based on 48 pages that I gave it over here. So we are in Claude Opus 4. You can see right here where my head's at. This is called the artifact. Literally, this was me dropping 48 pages in with that initial long prompt that I gave it, and it turned it into these 24 pages. And I started to go through it. It was pretty good. Wasn't perfect, but we're going to be going into this even more. And I think this is going to be more entertaining, actually getting into the story itself rather than just fine-tuning how to best prompt this stuff. This will be the Bob Ross actually going in and painting the baby trees as opposed to talking about why he's choosing this paint over this paint, which I don't even know if he did, but I don't know if I'd even want to watch that. I'd rather see him, paint the little friendly boat in the stream there. So that's what we're going to be doing. And yeah, took a little bit of time to get in, assess this whole project, the best way to go about it. And this is just the way it is. These tools are changing and evolving, getting better week by week. And at the same time, they're not perfect. And clearly, I'm not perfect in terms of getting them all to work just right. But I think this is going to be kind of great. And there's another tool that I want to show that literally I can't stop thinking about just how amazing this is. So I want to show you this because it's going to completely change how I'm working through this live. And I think it's going to make things more, move not only faster, but just check this out. So, okay, over here, this is Wispr Flow. If you're not familiar with this, it is awesome. I highly recommend checking it out if you're a writer or you just want to move faster in terms of writing emails or whatever. But this essentially turns your keyboard into a dictation, an audio dictation keyboard. And on your phone, there are some apps that have better dictation than others. ChatGPT is great for one. You can go in and just hit the microphone button, talk to it. It's really good. The punctuation's great. But when you're in iOS and you're sending a text message, it's just okay. It's not that great. This is much better. And it's really great on desktop. So let me show you a little bit about this. So we're going to just jump into Claude. So we're here in just in the main screen here. Let's just warm this up. And so right now we're in Sonnet. We're going to be coming back to this later to do any line edits. But before I give it that shorter prompt, let's talk to it a little bit. Now I am pressing the FN button on my keyboard. So check this out. Good afternoon to you as well. We're going to get into some line edits of my novel that's way too long. I will provide you with a prompt to help you focus. Look at that. This came right up there on the screen. So let's take the shorter prompt. I'm just grabbing it from over here. It's saying perfect. Okay, so I understand the parameters for polishing your novel. Still tripping. I'll focus on making only the specific changes you request, preserving Dustin's authentic voice in first person present tense, yada, yada, yada. Now let's just talk back to it for a second here. Now you don't really have to talk to it this much, but I just want to show you how Wispr Flow is working. All sounds great. We will circle back in a minute once we have more specific instructions with this edit. There you go. It even cleaned up with me saying, it just got rid of that. So it's pretty cool. Okay, now let's get into the actual novel editing itself. I had this longer version. I almost want to throw that out and just go through what I've got, what Claude's spitting back out to me. I want this to be something that's a lot tighter, that's flowing much better for audiobook than what I had. So I'm okay with this being something wholly new in a lot of ways. So in the last couple episodes, I did set up where this was at, but I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. In the last episode, which was episode 3, I got into line edits because Claude kept using the word feels over and over again. Feel, feeling, feels. And I wanted to show some variation with that. So I ended up doing that in Sonnet. So I want to get to the end of this here. Now this is right after the character goes running down the mountain and fears that he might have broken his arm. So let's just start it off here. So as I reach the base of the hiking trail, I arrive at a closed gate standing a few feet tall. And it seems like something I can easily jump over, no doubt about it. I ask Rebecca if I should jump over it, and she emphatically says to go for it. So now I am just noticing that it says it a little bit too much. I asked Rebecca if I should jump the fence or the gate. So let's just change it to the gate. And she emphatically says to go for it. Channeling my inner athlete while high, I turn back to give myself a running start. Now I finesse that a little bit with Sonnet. I pick up my pace and run toward the gate. I leap, and just when it feels like I've cleared it, I feel my right foot catch on the top of the gate. I fall straight down. So we could even just say catch on the top. I fall straight down and land hard on the concrete, with my forearms taking the brunt of the fall. I stand back up and realize immediately something's wrong. It's a steeper angle down than I realized. I'm glad I didn't hit my face or head, though my arms are stinging and I can barely move them. Fuck. I hear a ringing sensation in both ears. I see my favorite Hamilton watch on my left wrist is broken, its face shattered. I hope the same thing didn't just happen to my bones. I suddenly feel dehydrated. Rebecca approaches me and asks if I'm all right. I tell her I'm not sure, then reach for a water bottle. Instead of having reach for her water bottle, let's have, and she hands me her water bottle. Sharp pains shoot through my arms, and I ask her to please remove the cap. She hands me the water bottle. She hands me the open water bottle, and it hurts as I raise both arms to my mouth. Now, keep in mind, Claude took all of this I had written. I had more detail. Claude condensed it down and also flipped it into present tense. It's pretty good. It's solid, and it's flowing. It's simple. It's easy to make sense of in an audiobook, read aloud kind of place, but it's not perfect yet. So this is where it's on me to make changes on my own, or to jump over to Sonnet for line edit. So let's just keep going, see where it makes sense. You're going to get more and more into the story. Hopefully you're going to be somewhat invested, and I'll show certain scenes that I think are especially fun. But this is the top scene where the Dustin character breaks both arms on a hiking date after everything was going great. And he is also high too. So Rebecca suggests I sit down and grabs me by the right hand. This sends a new, more painful shooting sensation through my right wrist and forearm. Oh wait, let's jump back here. She hands me the open water bottle, and it hurts as I raise my arms to my mouth. Let's say stings. And it stings as I raise my arms to my mouth. I wince and shout motherfucker as I get water all over my shirt. Rebecca suggests I sit down and grabs me by my right hand. This sends a new, more painful shooting sensation through my right wrist and forearm. I shout motherfucker again, this time louder, startling her. We sit down by the gate. Rebecca says she doubts. Let's be a little more specific here. We sit down on a ledge by the gate. You know, you don't want to confuse the reader. Like, if this character is sitting down on the ground with his broken arms, then how's he going to get back up? So Rebecca says she doubts I broke my arms. She also says she's really high, like really high. I tell her I hope she's right about my arms, but I don't know. I'm in no position to drive, not because I'm too high, but because I can barely move my arms without experiencing pain. Now, I want to jump out here for a second. Look, I like to read a lot of books that have, more flowery descriptions, and there are parts of this that I think get into more descriptions, but also I want this to move, and I want this to be something that makes sense for really just about any reader. I want this to feel almost like it's at a middle school reading level, and that's not to say this whole thing is dumb. I think that there's a lot of there's a lot of thoughtfulness throughout all of it. There's a lot of introspection, but I want this to come across as I want this to be something that's easy for people to consume. So I don't mind this being stripped down in a way that's just like, wow, this really makes sense for an audiobook friendly flow. And again, I can always go back and punch things up. I can make adjustments, but for now, we are thinking in terms of reduction and getting this down to its bare essentials, and then can always, spruce it up from there. All right. So, okay. I suggest we go get something to eat. I want to just chill for an hour, then see where I'm at. Maybe it's just a combination of bruising or spraining something, and soon enough, things will improve. I suggest Greenleaf's Thai Vegan since it's right down the street and is open late. Ideally, after some tofu pad Thai, my arms will just be feeling bruised. I'll be somewhat back to normal. Our highs will wear off, and maybe sexy time can still be on the table. Pretty good work there, Claude. That's really getting to the core of it. All right, I sit across from Rebecca at Greenleaf, so this is jumping to a whole new location now, which as I was writing this, I felt like when things start to get long-winded, or just things start to feel a little bit like, okay, the scene, what's happening? Get out, get to a new location. So here we are. We're at a new location. So I sit across from Rebecca at Greenleaves and struggle to use my arms to eat. The manager is kind enough to bring 2 ice packs for my arms. Rebecca asks how I'm feeling, and I tell her not any better. I Google 24-hour urgent care and see there are places open downtown. Okay. We might want to add a little bit of a detail here, because if you're just saying I Google, typically that's like, on your phone. So let's go. I use voice to text and Google 24-hour urgent care and see there are places open downtown and in Pasadena. DTLA is closer, though going downtown late at night with broken arms seems like a potential nightmare. All right, that's kind of funny, but I want to just see something here. Let's try something out over in Claude Sonnet, where we've got the line editing prompt already set up. So I'm going to say, let's use Wispr Flow. I just added this detail of using voice to text. This is very meta, actually. We're writing a sentence. No, we don't want that. This is very meta. The fact that I'm editing a sentence about using voice to text while literally using voice to text. So did not plan that. Let's get back into the actual work itself. I just added this detail about using voice to text in order to make this a bit more specific. Does this phrasing flow as well as it could? If not, let's see another suggestion. This is good. The current phrasing feels a bit choppy with the back-to-back and connection, or and connections. Here's a smoother option. I use voice to text to Google 24-hour urgent care and see there are places open downtown and in Pasadena. So it's basically saying I use voice to text to Google instead of and Google. Okay. So it literally just swapped one word out, but I'm fine with that. That's cool. All right, now we're getting into some dialogue. Let's see how this is treated through Claude. Hey, so there's an urgent care in Pasadena that's open 24 hours, I say. Do you need to go tonight? Okay. I mean, it doesn't specify Rebecca, but who else would it be? I think this could be, do you need to go tonight? No, I'm thinking maybe a bit of detail here could be good. How about this? Do you need to go tonight? Asks Rebecca, eyes focused on her fake chicken satay skewer. On a fake chicken satay skewer. So that brings it in a little bit more to the vegan tie of it all, and that she's not paying attention to Dustin, who's clearly in pain. But let's jump over to Sonnet, just to play with it a little bit. Now, I think that could work, but I want to see what Sonnet is capable of a little bit more. So let's jump over here. I'm adding some detail in this scene that's set at a vegan Thai restaurant. And this is a short back and forth that I have. Would you change any of the language to make it flow better? Let's see. The dialogue flows well overall, but here are a couple options to make it even smoother. Hey, so there's an urgent care in Pasadena that's open 24 hours, I say. Do you need to go tonight? Rebecca asks. Rebecca asks instead of ask Rebecca. Eyes focused on a fake chicken satay skewer. Rebecca asks, eyes focused on a fake chicken. Okay, that's basically the same thing I have. Except Rebecca asks instead of asks Rebecca. Option 2, slightly more natural. Hey, so there's a 24-hour urgent care in Pasadena, I say. Do you need to go tonight? Rebecca asks. Eyes focused on a fake chicken satay skewer. That's literally the same thing that I have. Asks Rebecca to Rebecca asks. Oh, okay. Hey, so there's a 24-hour urgent care in Pasadena. I like that. So let's jump over here. Hey, so there's a 24-hour urgent care in Pasadena. That's good. That tightens it up a little bit. Do you need to go tonight? Do you need to go tonight? Rebecca asks. It doesn't really matter, but I like that. Flows a little better. It flows a little tighter having her name first. Eyes focused on a fake chicken satay skewer. That's my detail, which Claude did not change. I think my arms are broken. I want to know exactly what I'm dealing with. All right. Now, just use Sonnet quickly to punch up what Opus spit out, bring it a little bit more back into the world that I had created, and used Wispr Flow in the process to speed it all up. So let's keep it moving. I get that, she says. Mouthful. Since we just said the soy chicken, let's just try playing with this here. This is wild. Here's the next line. Let's tighten it up so we're not talking about vegan chicken too much. Here's a tighter version that moves away from the vegan chicken focus. I get that, she says, still chewing. But maybe just go home and chill tonight. You can deal with it in the morning. Okay. I like that. Don't need to cut and paste that. Just still chewing. Cool. I don't want to make things worse, I say, growing annoyed with the suggestion to delay medical care. I can't just put it off. I need to know how badly I messed myself up tonight. It didn't look like you fell that hard, she says. Why not just sleep on it? I can see where she's coming from, but that's not what I'm about to do. I don't think handling whatever this is should wait, I say. I'm going to go to urgent care. I'm not expecting you to drive, especially if you're high, but if you want to come in the Uber with me, I let myself trail off and watch her as she takes a moment to respond. Okay. Now, this part right here, I think this is okay, but it needs a little bit more clarity. So, there's nothing confusing at all about it being the same character speaking twice. So let's jump over to Claude again and try this out. Okay, this dialogue is broken up. It's by the same person. I want to bring it together a little bit more, make it clear that this is not two people here. Here's a way to connect those lines more clearly as one person speaking. I don't think handling whatever this is should wait, I say. I'm going to go to urgent care. This is good. It's doing better with the voice. I'm going to go to urgent care. I'm not expecting you to drive, especially if you're high. But if you want to come in the Uber with me, I let myself trail off and watch her as she takes a moment to respond. Let's keep this first part. I'm going to keep this sentence here for now. I can see where she's coming from, but that's not what I'm about to do. And then we're going to take this and change it up. I don't think handling whatever this is should wait, I say. I'm going to go to urgent care. I'm not expecting you to drive, especially if you're high, but if you want to come in the Uber with me, I let myself trail off and watch her as she takes a moment to respond. I think you might be overreacting a little, I'm sorry, she says with a shrug. Her response is mildly infuriating. Now this should be on another line. Now this is where Claude condensed this a little bit. Why don't we try something out here after we finesse this a bit? I think you might be overreacting a little. I'm sorry, she says with a shrug. Her response is mildly infuriating. I just want to deal with the situation, I say. Matter of fact, I'd say as matter of fact and calm as I can muster. You absolutely should, and you will, she says. Just first thing tomorrow if you need to. Try and relax tonight. Okay. Let's ask Claude something. Let's see if it can do this. Do you think that this is the best way to space out dialogue like this? Or are there any other rules? Because I'm noticing some of the dialogue passages are getting condensed into one paragraph. For dialogue formatting, you're actually handling it correctly. The general rule is new speaker equals new paragraph. Your spacing here is perfect. Rebecca speaks, paragraph 1. Dustin speaks, paragraph 2. Rebecca speaks again, paragraph 3. When you combine Dustin's longer speech earlier, that was also correct since it was also one speaker. The only alternative would be if you wanted to break up a very long speech with action description in the middle, like, I don't think handling whatever this is should wait, I say. I'm going to go to urgent care. I lean forward, watching her reaction. Okay. That makes sense. So basically, we're going to keep it as one paragraph per speaker. And if it's starting to run a little bit long, break it up with action. But yeah, can't have too much flowing in one paragraph, especially if it's going to be two different speakers. I'm not expecting you to drive, especially if you're high, but if you want to, okay. All right, this is cool. Going down the right path with all this. So, I sigh, finding myself getting more and more annoyed with her downplaying my injury. I open the Uber app on my phone and see a driver named Gavorg is 8 minutes away. I'm ordering an Uber to go to urgent care in South Pasadena. You can come with if you'd like. Okay, there's a lot of sighs here. If you're too high or it's too late, whatever I add. Let's just get rid of this. Let's try this. I'm ordering an Uber to go to urgent care in South Pasadena. You can come with if you'd like. Rebecca takes a moment to... Let's play with this a bit. Rebecca appears deep in thought. Perhaps she is just really high. Nah, it's a little... Totally out of it. If you're too high or it's too late, whatever I add. She's clearly conflicted. Okay. Let's... So we got rid of a sigh, just feeling like that was a little excessive. But let's run this through Claude and see what Claude thinks. Just made a few edits into this. Is this flowing well in terms of formatting and pacing? Just crazy fast. This flows really well. The pacing feels natural and the formatting is spot on. You've got a good rhythm between action, dialogue, and Dustin's internal thoughts. The only tiny suggestion would be in this line. She's conflicted. I'm so high. Damn it. As I wait for her to finish her thought, I order the Uber. You could tighten it up slightly too. She's conflicted. I'm so high. Damn it. While I wait for her to finish her thought. So while instead of as. As I wait for her to finish her thought. While I wait for her to finish her thought. Just while instead of as for a smoother flow. But honestly, it's really minor. The section captures Dustin's growing frustration and the awkwardness of the situation perfectly. The detail about Gavorg being 8 minutes away is a nice specific touch that keeps it grounded. Okay. Yeah, I like while. We can jump back over to while. Or jump back over and change it to while. While I wait for her to finish her thought, I order the Uber. Can you manage on your own, she asks. Okay, now that should be a new line based on these rules. I look away. Of course I'll be able to manage, though it's shocking how quickly my date with Rebecca went sideways. Yeah, I'll manage, I say. I'm really sorry, she says. Okay, we get a little bit too many reallys here. I'm really sorry, she says. Let's change that to, if you need to, text me. If you need to, you can text me. All right, let's see what we got here. I don't really need anything from you, B word, is my first thought, but instead I smile and nod back. All right, so that's getting a little bit into Dustin's internal monologue. He doesn't say that out loud, but the character is clearly pissed. So let's just run this through before we move on to the next scene and see what Claude thinks about this as a way to end the scene, and if the formatting and flow are working okay, and if there are any other suggestions. So again, we have taken this 50 pages or so, turned it into 24, 25 page, I'm sorry, about 48 pages, turned it into 24 pages with Claude Opus. Now we're going through and making edits, not to say they're going to be the final perfect version of it, but it's more, let's just go through and change anything that's not feeling totally right into something that's flowing a little bit more smoothly, that's reading better, doesn't have the same words repeating too much. And we're doing that in Claude Sonnet. And we've created new prompts for each of these tasks. So let's jump over to Claude Sonnet. And then we're also using Wispr Flow to move fast. Here is how we're wrapping up this location in the Thai vegan restaurant where Dustin has his arms broken. Please flag anything if the formatting is not okay or anything else is reading awkwardly. Look how fast this is. The formatting and flow are good overall, but there's one small punctuation issue in the final line. Here's the corrected version. Can you manage on your own, she asks. I look away. Of course, I'll be able to manage, though it's shocking how quickly my date with Rebecca went sideways. Yeah, I'll manage, I say. I'm really sorry, she says. If you need to, you can text me. I don't really need anything from you, bitch, is my first thought, but instead I smile and nod back. Remove the comma after the B word. Okay. Since it's not actually dialogue being spoken and it's his internal thought being reported, the comma was making it read like he was speaking it aloud. The contrast between his harsh internal reaction and his polite external response really captures Dustin's frustration perfectly. Nice way to show his restraint while revealing how hurt, angry he is. Okay, all right. Now, again, let's jump over to writing, and we are jumping into a new scene. Keeping this moving. I ride in the Uber towards South Pasadena, grateful for essentially airlifting me out of my bad date. Now, I had a bit more of a descriptive line in my original version. I think it was something to the effect of like a chopper out of Saigon. So let's add that back. This is okay. I ride in the Uber towards South Pasadena, grateful for essentially airlifting me out of my bad date like a chopper out of Saigon. This is new for me. I've never injured myself on a date before. I wonder if I'd be feeling worse if I didn't get high. It doesn't matter. Well, it doesn't matter now. This is the reality, and I just have to deal with it. I want my arms x-rayed ASAP. I've never been good with uncertainty. I think we can turn that, we can bridge that into one sentence. As I've never been good with uncertainty. Now, since we did just add a detail there, and well, let's do another paragraph first before we see what Claude has to say. Am I bummed that Rebecca chose not to join me? Hell yeah. At the same time, she owes me nothing. I thought we were getting along well. Before I hurt myself, it seemed like we might spend the night together, either at my place or hers. It's like there's this alternate timeline where we went home, ate Thai food, smoked another J, drank wine, and hooked up at least once. Okay, so this is interesting as it has the character flashing back in first person present tense. Let's run this through Sonnet and just get a sense of how this is working. Again, this is not perfect, but we are creating a new rhythm with the first person present tense. And I can always add details, can always tighten things up. But let's see here. Okay, playing with the first person present tense, adding a bit of detail back into this. Please assess how this is flowing and note if anything is coming across as awkward or not reading well in terms of audiobook friendly flow. This is so fast. This flows really well for an audiobook. The pacing and rhythm feel natural, and the mix of present action with reflection works perfectly. Just a couple of tiny suggestions. Minor tweaks for smoother flow. I ride in the Uber toward South Pasadena, grateful for essentially being airlifted out of my bad date like a chopper out of Saigon. Adding being makes it flow more naturally when read aloud. I like that. I'm going to add that in. Being airlifted instead of airlifting me. That's good. Being airlifted out of my bad date like a chopper out of Saigon. Okay, cool. Then we've got, I wonder if I'd be feeling worse if I hadn't gotten high. Hadn't gotten instead of didn't get. I like that. If I hadn't gotten high instead of didn't get. Maintains better tense consistency with the conditional. Totally. Either at my place or hers, it's like there's this alternate timeline where we went home, ate Thai food, smoked another J, drank wine, and hooked up at least once. Consider smoked another joint, drank wine, smoked another joint instead of J. Yeah. Drank wine and hooked up at least once. Everything else reads beautifully. AI just loves to please. But yeah, everything else reads beautifully. The Saigon helicopter metaphor is great, and the shift from his immediate situation to reflecting on the alternate timeline feels very natural for Dustin's voice. The uncertainty theme ties together well throughout. Okay. All right, let's keep it moving. So now we've got Gevorg. Now I'm noticing that Claude removed quite a bit of my description of Gevorg, though this is something I need to decide just how much description is necessary for an Uber driver in a story like this. So right now we've got Gevorg asks how I hurt myself. I'm not really in the mood to get into it at all, though I say I fell hard on the ground at Griffith Park. He asks if I fell down the mountain. Well, if you didn't fall down the mountain, your arms probably aren't broken, says Gevorg. The spacing's a little weird. He asked if I fell down the mountain. This is feeling a bit clunky. So let's do this. Let's jump over to what I had before. You can see this is the initial scene that we were editing. It's a lot longer. All right. I'm not seeing. Maybe I didn't have that much description of Gavorg. There's so many Uber drivers in this story that have descriptions. I guess Gavorg did not get that much of a description in the amid the panic of Dustin having his arms really broken. But that's where we can add something right now. So let's see. Gavorg asks how I hurt myself. How about this? Gavorg, a fit middle-aged man who I'm guessing is Armenian asks how I hurt myself. I don't think we need the word really. I'm not in the mood to get into it all, though I say I fell hard on the ground at Griffith Park. He asks if I fell down the mountain, and I tell him not exactly. That's what I'm going to add. Well, if you didn't fall down the mountain, your arms probably aren't broken, says Gavorg, then smiles at me in the rear view. Now, kind of taking from before, this next line is Dustin's thought. Shut the fuck up, Gavorg, is my immediate thought. We don't need the comma there if it's not actual dialogue. We'll see, I say. We shall see. Okay. Now, it looks like this cut out one of my jokes about, well, we'll come back to that in a second. Let's see if there's a way to work that joke in. So let's jump over to Claude for a second. Here's the next part. What am I doing? We can do this in Wispr flow. Here's the next part in which Dustin interacts with his Uber driver. Let's add that in. So I like to put quotes around it, or you can put stars, you can put hashtags, just anything to dot, dot, dot. The AI seems to pick it up if you can break it up to show that this is the actual chunk from the writing versus you talking to it. It's able to pick it up pretty clearly, though I'm sure there are more specific rules around exactly the best way to say that, but I've never had any issue with AI being unable to tell what is me directing it versus what is the actual text from the document itself. So let's jump back to the writing. I mentioned that there was something that Opus cut, and this is something that I thought that actually happened in real life when I broke my arms. So you can see here, what you need to do, said Gavorg at a red light, turning back to me, pick up olive oil, extra virgin, put all over your arms. An Uber driver actually told me when I mentioned that my arms might be broken to put olive oil all over my arms. So in the story here, it's like, well, what's that going to do? I asked. Heal arms, he said. Olive oil for broken bones. Your arm's not broken, he said. You'll be fine. We'll see. I don't even know why I'm making changes to this. This is the old version. You'll be fine. We'll see, I said. I'm going to go get the x-ray. Good luck, he said. Then he parked and helped me out of the Uber like a wounded child. Okay, I think some of that is kind of funny. Now, granted, we are trying to condense and cut, but I like that beat. So I want to see if we can add a truncated version of that to the end of Claude's reduction. So let's jump back to the AI tools. Let's talk to it. In reducing this scene originally, this chunk from before was cut out entirely. I'd like to keep the olive oil joke if possible, though we can cut out the part about Dustin being helped out like a wounded child. Let's put that in here. Let's work that into the new scene without things being too much longer. Let's see what it does. Okay. Here's a way to integrate the olive oil exchange while keeping it concise. Gevorg, a fit middle-aged man who I'm guessing is Armenian, asks how I hurt myself. I'm not in the mood to get into it all. Could cut out all. Though I say I fell hard on the concrete at Griffith Park. He asks if I fell down the mountain. I tell him not exactly. Well, if you didn't fall down the mountain, your arms probably aren't broken, says Gevorg, then smiles at me in the rear view. At a red light, he turns back to me. What you need to do, pick up olive oil, extra virgin, put it all over arms. Olive oil for broken arms, I ask? Your arms are not broken, he says. You'll be fine. Shut the fuck up, Gevorg, is my immediate thought. We'll see, I say. We shall see. So this keeps the olive oil joke while maintaining the flow and eliminates the redundant we'll see exchange. The internal shut the fuck up thought works better after his medical advice rather than his initial assessment. Ooh, okay, that's pretty good. So there we are. We are taking from what Claude Opus just gave us. We're going back to the original document, and we are putting this all in a blender to create a much shorter version. So let's go back in here. So let's see. Ooh, that spacing is messed up. Gevorg, a fit middle-aged man who I'm guessing is Armenian, asks if I hurt myself. I'm not in the mood to get into it all. I'm not in the mood to get into it. Though I say I fell hard on the ground at Griffith Park. He asks if I fell down the mountain. I tell him not exactly. Well, if you didn't fall down the mountain, your arms probably aren't broken, says Gevorg, then smiles at me in the rear view. At a red light, he turns back to me. What you need to do, pick up olive oil, extra virgin, put all over arms. Olive oil for broken bones, I ask. Your arm's not broken, he says. You'll be fine. Shut the fuck up, Gevorg, is my immediate thought. We'll see, I say. Maybe we don't even need this we shall see. So it could be like, is my immediate thought. We'll see, I say, and turn my attention out the window. We'll see, I say. Let's do some actual writing here. We'll see, I say, and shift my attention out the window. Okay, now I'm going to get a little bit, I'm going to overwrite this a little bit. You can, okay, we'll see, I say, and shift my attention out the window, feeling a wave of frustration crash on top of me. Now that's a little much, but let's see what Claude has to say about that. This is getting better. I'm not loving how the scene ends, so I'm playing with a little bit more introspection at the end here. Let's finesse this line. That reads well! Exclamation point. The introspection at the end gives a nice emotional ending. Just one small suggestion for smoother flow. Shut the fuck up, Gavorg, is my immediate thought. We'll see, I say, shifting my attention out the window as a wave of frustration crashes over me. That's pretty good. I say, I'm gonna make that. I can make that change here. Shifting my attention out the window as a wave of frustration crashes over me. So there we go. AI taking my idea, which was too verbose, and tightening it up. Now, I want to give it this whole chunk here and just make sure that the formatting in this entire scene is working well. Before moving on to the next scene or location, please point out any areas in which the formatting is incorrect. Oop, might not be coming in. In this line, I'm not in the mood to get into it. Where's that? Yeah, we can keep it all. Okay, I'm not in the mood to get into it all. Everything else looks good formatting-wise. The dialogue is properly separated, the paragraphs break naturally, and the flow works well for an audiobook read. Okay, cool. So, got the olive oil joke back in there. Now we're moving on to a new scene. I feel cold as I wait in the urgent care lobby. The pain grows increasingly worse, and I resist moving my arms at all costs. Not wanting to fall into a pit of stoned anxiety, I attempt to focus my attention outward. There's an older gentleman across from me with his pant leg rolled up and a bloody ankle. He keeps getting up, and each time he winces, his ankle bleeds onto the floor. A middle-aged black couple sits beside me. Neither exhibits clear signs of illness. One seat over from them, a young Hispanic woman sits watching The Office on a Samsung phone. She coughs a lot. I feel dehydrated, and my eyes have grown absurdly dry. I get up and approach a nearby vending machine. I see my reflection in the vending machine's plastic cover. I look like hell with my pained expression and arms frozen in place, like I'm imitating a sad, wounded T-Rex. Now, this is cool because this is stuff that I wrote, but it looks like, as requested or as prompted, Claude did tighten it up. So let's go back to the original version here just to see how Claude tightened this up. So remember, this was in first person past tense. And okay, let's see what I wrote. I felt cold as I waited in the urgent care lobby. I was so pissed that I forgot to grab my jacket from my car. My black Lululemon running jacket was right there in my trunk. My high had intensified, mostly in the form of negative thoughts. The thoughts came in fast and furious. You put yourself in this position. You did this to yourself. This is what thinking with your dick led to, you dumb fuck. The pain grew increasingly worse, and I resisted moving my arms at all costs. Not wanting to fall into a pit of stoned anxiety, took that. I attempted to focus my attention outward, took that. My eyes jolted around, wondering why the other people there were in urgent care at 10 p.m. on a Wednesday. There was an older gentleman across from me with his pant leg rolled up and a bloody ankle. He kept getting up, and each time he winced at as his ankle bled onto the floor. I wished he would just stay seated for the sake of himself and the floor. A middle-aged black couple sat beside me. Neither the man or woman exhibited clear signs of illness, aches, or pains. I wonder why they were there. One seat over from them, a young Hispanic woman sat watching The Office on a Samsung phone. She coughed a lot. Claude took that exactly. The black woman didn't appear to like being so close to all of the coughs. Claude cut that. I felt dehydrated, my eyes had grown absurdly dry. I assumed they appeared bloodshot. I got up and approached a nearby vending machine. I saw my reflection in the vending machine's plastic cover. I looked like hell with my pained expression and arms frozen in place, like I was imitating a sad, wounded T-Rex. All right, let's break this out here for a second. So you can see, that was my initial writing. That was it. It was long-winded, but the details were there. And then Claude broke it down into what I just shared, which was a lot shorter. It was literally this to this, as opposed to my longer version of it. But these are all details that I wrote. Claude acted as genius level editor, choosing what to keep and what to cut. And I can roll with it because not everything needs to be in there. I'm happy with the cuts that it made for now. Again, if I decided that something in that passage should have been in there, kind of like the olive oil on the arms joke, I'd grab it and bring it back. So this is the flow that we're creating. And you know what? I am going to end on a high note today. We're getting things going with Wispr Flow, showing how Claude Opus can work with longer text and how Claude Sonnet can help with in-the-moment line edits. And this is starting to flow. I'm going to show scenes as they go. I'll jump back and forth here and there so you can get a sense of what I had written before without any AI, and then what Claude Opus did on its own. And you can see what I'm doing in Claude Sonnet in order to improve it. So this is it. AI versus my novel is starting to take form. It only took 5 hours of me screwing around, and this is how it's going to be going. So I'll be back tomorrow, and we'll jump into some more scenes within this first 24-page chunk, and we'll also prompt the next 50-page to 24-page reduction, if not tomorrow, in the next episode or sometime during this week. But hopefully you're getting a good idea of what the process is going to be like with this, and how using Claude Sonnet for line items and Opus for larger text to really analyze and cut down is going to help make this a much tighter read. So that's it for now. Enjoy the rest of Saturday.